Hey, what's going on, everybody? Justin here, and in this video, I'm going to be going over my sort of favorite things that I read or listened to or completed or whatever in the month of July, and I think I will now be caught up on my wrap-ups. Like I said, I skipped about a year or so, but I've done 3 of them now in like 1 month, so that's pretty good for me. Hopefully, I'll stay on track from now on and actually, put them out at the beginning of like the next month after, you know what I mean? Like kind of like what I'm doing now for August finally. But anyways, like I said, staples cut up. Let's just go ahead and get started with my 4 favorite things that I finished in the month of July. All right, so let's start with the audiobook since I don't have a physical copy of it, and it is The Sacred Band by James Romm. And ostensibly, this is all about the Sacred Band, which, if you don't know from classical Greek history, is an elite hoplite band. I don't know if you'd call it a hoplite band, a hoplite unit of 300 men from Thebes, reportedly 150 pairs of male lovers because, they would fight stronger next to each other, not want to show cowardice or anything like that in front of their lover, things like that. Obviously fight more ferociously if they get injured or killed, things like that. Anyways, like I said, ostensibly it's about the Sacred Band. However, it's really more just about sort of that generation or two of Theban history, which granted is like one of my favorite periods in classical Greek history, because this is when Thebes was sort of the hegemon of classical classical Greece, where they actually laid Sparta pretty low in 2 major battles at Leuctra and Mantinea, freed the Messenian Helots, things like that. But granted, I suppose in a way, even though not a lot of the book is actually dedicated specifically to the Sacred Band, there are obviously Epaminondas and Pelopidas, who was kind of the who wasn't the actual creator of the Sacred Band, but he was sort of its commander for a long period of time. That sort of generation is the only time the Sacred Band is actually kind of in play. It was theoretically created after the Thebans ousted sort of like a Spartan oligarchy that was kind of like a puppet regime that was controlling them after the Peloponnesian War and stuff. So, like I said, same sort of era. I can see why you put the title there, but like I said, it's a really cool era of Greek history. Like I said, Epaminondas is probably my favorite figure from classical Greece. Just like his sort of, I don't know, his political savviness, but also kind of moderation and humaneness, as well as kind of his, bravado and things like that when it was actually necessary, things like that. Just kind of mixes really cool. Definitely check Epaminondas and Pelopidas out in sort of the era of the Theban hegemony. Really good book. Really glad I listened to it. Before I get on to the physical books, just want to do my plug for my Etsy shop here, where you can get signs like this. Sophia obviously approves and things. It's the best way to support the channel. Been getting lots of favorites and likes and things, so thank you so much all for that. Just continue doing that, helping me out on the Etsy algorithm and things. And that's it. Obviously buy stuff if you want to. Let's go on to the physical books. The first up, we have a Full Society book here, and it's The Natural History and Antiquities of Selborne by Gilbert White. And it's got this really cool marbling on it. And this is sort of from the late 1700s. Gilbert White was a country parson who did a lot of sort of just natural history observations. In particular, he really enjoyed birding and ornithology, kind of watching birds and studying them and things. But yeah, he just wrote down tons of almost like field notes in a way, of his observations and things that he just came across and saw or heard from others and whatnot, as Sophia starts knocking my stuff off the shelves. But anyways, and he would also, along with his kind of journals and stuff, he would write to a lot of the leading scientists of his day, around England and other parts of Europe and stuff. And this is sort of a collected, just compilation of letters that he edited and things. And I think it's been in print basically since the late 1700s. But it's really cool having the Full Society edition and whatnot. But just to give you he's so, like I said, he's a country parson, so a lot of his letters are so polite and formal that it comes across kind of funny, even though he is doing formal observations and things. But just to give you a taste of one that I thought was hilarious. 9th of March 1772. Dear Sir, as a gentleman and myself were walking on the 4th of last November round the sea banks at New Haven, near the mouth of the Lewes River, in pursuit of natural knowledge, We were surprised to see 3 house swallows gliding very swiftly by us. That morning was rather chilly, with the wind at northwest, but the tenor of the weather for some time before had been delicate, and the noons remarkably warm. From this incident, and from repeated accounts with which I meet with, I am more and more induced to believe that many of the swallow kind do not depart from the island, but lay themselves up in holes and caverns, and do, insect-like and bat-like, come forth at mild times, and then retire again to their latebrae. Nor make I least doubt that, if I lived in New Haven, Seaboard, Brighthelmstone, or any of those towns near the chalk cliffs of the Sussex coast, by proper observations, I should see swallows stirring at periods of the winter, when the noons were soft and inviting, and the sun warm and invigorating. And kind of goes on and stuff. But I mean, just as a gentleman myself, we're walking by the river in pursuit of natural history, like it's like natural knowledge. It's like so kind of like ridiculously like play, but I don't know. I loved it. I don't know. It's kind of like a classic work in natural history, and so one of the first kind of books that are like a lay person like wrote sort of like on their own about natural history and natural observations and things. So I thought it was just kind of really cool looking how at a person, 250 years ago was kind of just like how they would like write things when they're just like kind of walking through the woods or on their like daily stroll and stuff, and kind of like what they saw and everything like that. But like I said, he does have a little bit of like scientific rigor with some like measurements and kind of comparisons and things like that as well. But I really enjoyed it. If you like sort of like I'm not sure what was the 1700s, like the Georgian and Stuart period. I was gonna say Victorian, but that's like 1800s. If you like that kind of era in literature, you might actually just kind of like it as well, just because of like his writing style and things like that. Next up, we have a history book, and it's Scipio Africanus, Greater Than Napoleon by B.H. Little Hart. And this is a biography of Scipio Africanus. If you don't know who that is, he's the one who fought Hannibal and defeated him at the Battle of Zama, sort of ending the Second Punic War, though he did a lot more than just the Battle of Zama, with the sword, especially with his Spanish campaigns and whatnot. This was written, I think, in the 30s, either the 20s or 1920s or 1930s. And it's sort of like that back in the day where basically the author just totally stand like whatever their like topic they were writing about, and it was like, he's obviously, Greater Than Napoleon is the subtitle. So, you kind of know what you're getting into with something like that. But granted, I was in the mood for reading just kind of like a stan account of Scipio Africanus. He does do a lot of like, just kind of like his history of, his campaigns and his like kind of character and whatnot. I do like how the author kind of incorporated a lot of sort of Scipio's like kind of political and like humanist dealings along with his sort of military triumphs and whatnot. And this is coming from an author or a writer who was, I think he wrote like just stratagems or on strategy or whatever, which I think is still read in a lot of like military academies today. He's really well regarded in like that sense. Obviously, he kind of blows Scipio up a little bit too much, puts him on a little bit too high of a pedestal where he's kind of like almost like venerating his subject matter. But like I said, you kind of know that getting into it. In some of his comparisons with like the other greats like Napoleon and Alexander and stuff, a little bit overblown maybe. It's kind of apples to oranges in a couple of concepts, I think. But like I said, really fun read, and you get kind of a nice comprehensive overview of the entire career of Scipio Africanus's history. So if you're into like Punic Wars, ancient Rome, stuff like that, definitely give this book a look. All right, so now let's go on to the last book, my favorite book of July that I read. And someone please tell me why no one has recommended Carl Safina yet to me. And this one is Voyage of the Turtle in Pursuit of Earth's Last Dinosaur, obviously by Carl Safina. I had seen his newest book, Becoming Wild, quite a bit, just kind of like here and there, getting like really good reviews and stuff. And I remember when I saw this book at a used bookstore, I was like, yeah, I'll just pick it up. It's like one of his like earlier books and stuff, but I really enjoyed it. What this book is all about is sea turtles, mainly the leatherback sea turtle, but also he kind of delves into like some of the other ones, such as Lake Comes Ridley and Loggerhead and stuff like that. And what the author is doing is going and meeting scientists and kind of joining them on their kind of their quest to like help out or like research sea turtles, help conserve them and stuff. Whether that's, catching them in the water, tagging them, getting like measurements and vital samples and stuff, or, protecting the eggs and things like that on like the sand dunes and the beaches and whatnot. So it for some people, like it was a little too repetitive from what I was like seeing on like Goodreads and stuff. But overall, I still think it was like it's really cool because each instance is kind of like a little bit different. There's kind of a different slant on it and whatnot. But a lot of conservation ecology is also talked about in the book, such as like long lining, where you have like thousands of hooks on like, like several mile long bait line. Getting changes done with that because sea turtles were like instead of like the target fish, whether that was like marlins or tuna or whatever, sea turtles were like taking the hooks and stuff and getting caught in them or choking on them and dying, obviously. Like different hook types, I guess. I kind of goes into descriptions of them and how they actually help sea turtles not get caught in them and whatever, but still catch fish and whatnot. So it's kind of seeing like the nitty gritty of what is actually being done to help like conserve them and stuff. And it was kind of cool seeing how like, on the Atlantic side, leatherbacks are starting to like rebound and stuff because of all the efforts and things that people have been doing for like a couple decades now. But on the Pacific side, things have had like a much slower start and they're still like in really, really bad shape. Generally, like sea turtles are having it pretty rough, and he kind of goes into, all the different threats and problems that are kind of going on with why that is. But I think the author writes really well. There's a couple like really good passages, things like that. Just like as actually written, like very good. I should have friggin' remembered one of them, but maybe I'll put that in another one if I do like a deep review. I think I'm gonna read some of his other books and kind of like do a kind of like a deep dive on Carl Safinas' works if the other ones are as good as this one. But yeah, definitely really enjoyed the writing style and also the content and the science and everything like that combined into one really cool book. So definitely check that out. If you like turtles, you gotta read that book. So there you have it. Those are the books, my favorite 4 books that I finished in the month of July. Let me know what you think of any of these ones and what your favorite book that you read in July was. I'm always on the lookout for more recommendations and stuff. And if you made it this far, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that kind of cool stuff. Like I said, check out the Etsy shop, check out the Instagram and Twitter, all that kind of cool stuff. And always remember, whatever you're reading, read victoriously.